All right. Welcome to another episode of Writers Talking. And today I'm pleased to have on a fellow writer, in fact, a comic book writer. Well, I always love talking to these guys. He is the man behind the comic Roy Beckworth and The Cursed Continent. I nearly forgot the bloody title, then that would have been embarrassing, wouldn't it? He is the one and only Nick. I nearly said Strange Pages then, but I was like, God, I've fluffed this introduction terribly. Nick Beck, for crying out loud.
No, you're all good.
Yeah, you can tell I really screwed this right. Nick Patch, I beg your pardon. I nearly said Nick Beckworth then. Great start, Justin. You can tell you're a professional with this shit.
Well, I accidentally copyrighted the first copies of the book to Roy Beckwith on accident.
No, we're a fine pair.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, as you can see, this is an off-camera show edition of the show because the good looks of myself and Nick combined will be just too much for the internet to handle. So we're going to do it like this.
Yeah, we can't do that. The internet needs to live. We can't break it. So,
so before the writing came along, who was Nick Patch?
I guess I was a 4-year-old because I was writing really young. But
do you remember when you started?
Yeah, I remember writing a story on my grandparents' desktop. That was about a dog who was a secret agent and was chasing a murderer and had rockets on its back.
It's funny you should say that because my first story that I wrote was on the floor of my grandparents' house, and they'd given me a notepad and pen to keep me quiet while they watched their soap operas because that was like the 9 circles of hell for me. So you and I have something in common already.
Yeah, that's how it was for me. I was using a desktop to type because it felt more legitimate, I guess, because books, they're not handwritten when you receive them, so it felt real, and I printed it off and everything, and begged my grandpa to draw a picture of the dog. Not that he was the best artist, but as a 4 or 5-year-old, I didn't know the difference. I thought, whoa.
And at that age, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. So that story, unfortunately, never made it to publishing, but maybe one day.
What other stories did you write as you grew up? Do you remember?
I remember writing a story that was practically a poorly done Harry Potter kind of ripoff. I remember writing that. And I did a story when I was 12 or 13 that went to the county fair, the local county fair, short story. And I got first place in that. It was
excellent.
Yeah, it was 13 to 18, and I ended up winning it. So I was pretty proud of that. That was about it was futuristic, and this family was on an RV trip, basically, but space version of an RV trip.
Awesome.
And there was a crash, and they crash landed on a planet that wasn't inhabited, and the father was killed in the accident. So these two boys had to kind of step up and protect their mother and figure out how they were going to get out off the planet. That one was all right. Maybe a little bit too much detail in the prose. So
I assume you're a comic collector. Is that fair?
A little bit, not as much as a lot of the other people in the indie comic space, but I do have a collection. It's not giant. I don't have 50 long boxes like a lot of people I see. But
I'm just peering around. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5 at the moment, but that's because I shifted a lot of my old stuff recently that I just knew I wasn't going to read again. Have you got any favorites?
I've been really so. I guess like my favorite, which I don't have anymore, that I would just consider my favorite. I have 2, I guess. One I still have the copies, but the first is Iron Man, Sean Chen, and who is it? I know his name. I should know his name. I can kind of picture the letters, but they're scrambled in my head.
I think I know the one you're talking about.
Kurt Busiek.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved that run.
Mm,
Absolutely loved it. So I guess I've talked about this before, but I mean, probably not everyone's heard it, and if they have, they've forgotten about the
mm,
story. I grew up in a small town that had no comic book store, and we were really far
mm.
away from any comic book store at all. And so these weren't really accessible to me, but they were always like these mystical items to me that I really wanted.
Yeah.
And I remember my grandpa telling stories about how they used to have them on the spinner rack at the gas station or at the
Mhm.
convenience store or whatever. And um, his friends would just one person would buy one month or like every 2 weeks, however often they were releasing at the time, and
Yeah.
they would just pass it around, and then someone else would buy the next one and they'd pass it around. And so they got worn. Obviously, back then they weren't collectibles, and so that was always like mystical to me because I never saw a comic book. I heard about them, and my
Mm.
my stepdad had a similar story where his dad had a collection of comic books, um, but I never really got to read them. I got to maybe look through them, but they were these old things, and his dad had passed away, so they were like these special
Yeah.
items that I wasn't allowed to like read and look at. Um, and then in movies and shows, you see people reading a comic book
Yeah.
or whatever. I remember Heroes. There was the comic book, the guy who was making a comic book, so that made it the TV show Heroes. That made
Yeah.
it kind of even more. And then in Lost, which isn't a great show in retrospect, but
No,
there's
it's
a
not.
kid. No, it's not. But there's a kid in it that was reading comic books, and so I really wanted to get my hands on these. And when I was 13, me and my grandpa planned we're gonna go. He's gonna take me into the city, hour away or so, and we're gonna get some comic books. And so that day, actually, I went to school and it was career day, and
Yeah.
someone had come in and he was a comic book artist. And so I got his book. That was my first ever comic book.
What was
Uh,
that?
I can't remember what it was called, and I can never find it. I've looked for it a bunch of times. I don't know why I can't find it.
Mm.
But it was this kind of like Babysitter's Club type mystery thing. It's kind of seemed like.
Okay.
So we went in and we got, I didn't know what issues were. I didn't know how to do it. So I tied together some stuff that I thought was all one story. It was Hulk at the time. So it was when Red Hulk was happening
Oh, yeah.
and World War Hulk. Those were around the same time. So I
Mm.
didn't realize there were different titles and different stories. So I had like 1 through 2 of the Hulk, just Hulk, and then the Incredible Hulk. I like 3 through 5 or
Yeah.
whatever. So it was like these mismatch, and it really confused me. I figured it out though. But I didn't have a lot of money to be able to spend on these things,
Mm.
so I found a website called mycomicshop.com.
Okay.
Right. And so that's why I ended up with the Iron Man books from the 90s, because everyone knows 80s, 90s books are now they're a lot mostly worthless. A lot of them we know everyone knows about the collecting boom and how now there's a whole bunch of stuff that copies of stuff that was supposed to be rare and whatever. But so I got this whole run. I got the first half for Christmas, the whole run of the 90 issues or something like that. I got the
Mm.
first half for Christmas one year, and then I think for my birthday, which is about halfway through the year, that next year I got the other half. So that was like the first thing I really put together that was a full run. And so that's like one of my favorites,
Mm.
for sure. I don't have it. I gave it away to a coworker's stepson.
Mhm.
And I come to find out he likes to take comic books and read them and then cut out panels that he really liked
Oh.
and hang them up.
Oh. I
Yeah.
my heart just ripped in two as you said that because I was sitting here bracing myself, something bad's coming here, and then you just said, "Oh,
Yeah.
no."
Yeah. So that is what
Mm.
happened. So I did some other stuff. I liked Hunter slash Prey
Mhm.
when Doomsday comes back. Um, I think that was Jurgens. And I liked that. And then just put together some other stuff. And then I got into high school, like 9 cheap runs of stuff that I could put together. And then
Yeah.
I got into high school and got my own job, and I didn't have to pay bills with the money. So I can now buy comic books that I want. So I had a bunch of subscriptions to stuff that was coming out at the time, which was like the New 52 stuff and the
Yeah.
Marvel Now. And I didn't like most of any of it. And I
Okay.
kind of stopped doing like most of the subscriptions that I had, but I kept Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo, Batman, because I that's like this best stuff of the New 52 in my opinion. And then from Marvel, it was the Superior Spider-Man, which I've seen some controversy about it, but I thought it was a really interesting story at the time.
I've not read it, but I'm aware of it, and it's one of those where a lot of people do go after it. But at the same time, my thought is, well, I remember the interview Todd McFarlane gave on Collider, where he remembers Stan Lee saying to him, "You've got to test the character." Well, Superior Spider-Man, whether you like it or not, is a very big test of the character, and I think it gets a lot of undeserved hate.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason people don't like it is, well, this is supposed to be a Spider-Man book, but it's Doc Ock in Spider-Man's body. So it doesn't feel like a Spider-Man book. And I get that. But I think that it was really a cool premise to run through. It reminds me of I don't know if you saw Buffy the Vampire Slayer or familiar. So there's an episode where Faith, who's the other Slayer, just for the audience, the other Slayer who is like more evil at the time anyway that this storyline takes place, she body swaps with Buffy, and living through Buffy's life, it kind of turns her a little bit into wanting to not be so evil, because she sees what because she always hated Buffy and was jealous of Buffy, and she kind of sees now that there wasn't much to be jealous of, and that it actually does feel good to be good and to help people, and she puts her life at risk to go and save a bunch of people. And I feel like that's what happened in Superior Spider-Man, where Doc Ock was kind of going through a little bit of that kind of a process. And I thought it was really interesting, especially, I was in high school. I didn't have a lot of reference either for what a good or bad story could be. So, but I did like it at the time. Looking back, I think I don't think it was bad. I see why people don't like it though.
So it's like I said, I never thought it was bad, but what certainly didn't help its case is that the writer is a bit of a tool on Twitter, especially with some of his critics. And case in point, he has me blocked, and we've never spoken.
It's a case of weird.
Yeah, it's a case of, all right, buddy, that's the way you want to be. Fair enough. But I do know he had a massive to do online with a YouTuber who criticized his work, to the point he had the guy blocked, but was sort of randomly looking at his account and tweet about stuff that he'd done, to the point the YouTuber finally had enough and called him out and said, look, put up or shut up. I'm sick and tired of it. And I think it sort of ended after that.
Yeah.
But I mean,
as a creator, I'd never block anyone. I've never blocked anyone. Like, I'll block things I think are bot accounts, or chicks trying to sell their OnlyFans or whatever. I'll block them. But like, as far as if someone criticizes an opinion that I have, I'd never ever block them. I don't know why. I just feel like that empowers them almost, right?
Yeah.
So plus, like, I mean, I've put a lot of work into my craft. I do think that I produce a pretty good result, but
yes,
I do want feedback, even if it's bad. And like, if it's negative feedback that is unfounded, then I'll be able to tell. And then I just won't, I won't take that in. So yeah, I want to get better. And a lot of that is audience feedback. So it sucks that Dan Slott would be such a, almost coward, maybe too harsh, but I do feel like that's kind of the realm that he's entering by blocking people who are critical or getting into fights with people who are critical.
Well, it's. I mean, I've had this discussion before with a few people, but the professionalism of some of the guys online is just galling to me. And don't get me wrong, I appreciate that certain people have rights to their opinions, of course, but Slot is just one of those examples where he's quite game to pick a fight, but yeah, when it turns around on him, oh no, here's that block button. But again, it's a case of, well, I don't read his work, so I don't genuinely care in retrospect.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten in fights with. I wouldn't call it a fight. What I'm doing is just trying to have a conversation. But like with Ron Mars, like we got in a pretty heated debate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was just being nice. So like,
yeah,
and he just really was being a jerk, and a bunch of people ended up being like, "Man, like I'm a fan of Ron, but he's coming off as like really obtuse here and like a jerk." And I was like, well, yeah, I guess so, I guess. But like I was just like really nice and just trying to figure out why he thought what he thought about the subject. It was about writing versus art. So I've set this ablaze on Twitter twice now.
I think I've only been on.
Yeah, I've only been on Twitter twice. I've only been on Twitter for less than a year. I just never really liked social media. But you know, how else do you can't get people to read your book if they don't know about it. So now I'm on social media. But I set it ablaze once last summer. And this is when Ron got involved. But he was like, oh, this is so wrong, blah, blah, blah. Because it was a post that was like just about like how writing is the first step in the process and how it's important. And like, I even like, don't get me wrong, art's really important, you know, like, and I was just talking about it and then said, now, who do you think is the best writer? And I kind of gave a few options in an image or whatever. And it blew up and he was so mad. And I was like, you know, cause I said, I can't remember exactly what I said, but I conceded to some of it. I said, I think that writing keeps people around, but the art gets them in, which is often the case. And I don't know if I 100% believe that anymore. I think it's definitely at least partially true. And he was like, no, like art is the only thing that matters. And we were kind of like going back and forth. I was like, well, I think they're equally important. He's like, no, they're not. And he said, I've been doing this for 30 years and I know more than you, is what he said. And everyone was like, whoa, what a jerk. But I was just being nice. Like, I get that you work for the big two and stuff, but I actually need you to like back up the claim you're making with like some logic or something rather than just make the claim. And he doesn't understand debate or argumentation clearly. And he just was getting mad, and it was a bad look for him. I think I ended up getting a lot of followers from that. So that's just like kind of how it goes. And then I set it ablaze again just recently. The first one was complete accident. The second one, like I wasn't trying to light a whole fire. I was just saying something I thought was true. Like, but I kind of said it in a way that kind of it made it easy for people to twist. So I don't know if you recall, but I said that writing requires more work than drawing a comic. And I went on to explain, like, what I'm saying here is that as a writer, you need to know that your artists are a lot of work. And so you need to try your best to put in as much or more work than they'll put in to make sure it's worth drawing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the way Twitter does the whole quote tweet thing, it cut it off and made it look like the first line was the only part of the tweet. And so then it just blew up and set a whole fire. And Eric July did a video about it. And Ethan Van Scriver decided to weigh in. And Ryan Otley decided to weigh in. And we had a little conversation. And it's just like, also, what's his name? The one that everyone just makes fun of all the time for his art being bad from the 90s. Why can't I think of his name? He's one of the image guys. Yeah, Rob Liefeld. So I think his art's gotten better, but yeah, in the '90s it was like kind of questionable. But yeah, so he weighed in, and just like a bunch of people were weighing in on it, and on my post. So that one had 1.5 million views. So I didn't mean to light a fire, but I've lit in the fire twice. So maybe I should just lean into it, because I do think writing is like super important in comics. It's the story, so that's just my take.
No, fair enough. What software do you use to write with?
Yeah, I think I just use Drive, Google Drive, Google Docs.
Well, I'm curious because there's obviously quite a few different ones out there.
Yeah, I use my own like format that I've kind of devised to make it super easy for the artists to understand. Like, okay, so like I'll have sections rather than just pages. So here's a section that's basically a scene, and I'll describe who's in it. Like, it'll go through all of this stuff, where it's at, what time of day, who's in the scene, what special objects are in the scene that are important, and where all of these things have been seen before, just to make it easy for them to go find the references that they need to, to know what it is, what it looks like, and everything like that. And then as well, I have just the way I like bold certain things and everything. It makes it so it's much more scannable and readable. So I haven't found a software that does what I want. Sucks. Takes a little more time.
Not to mention Google Docs is also free.
Yeah, that too. I mean, I pay for drive space, but it's cheap. Drive space is so cheap now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you have any writing influences?
That's a good question. I mean, I've just been influenced by everything that I've taken in. I was always a big fan of Lord of the Rings, not the books. That was always too much for me when I was a kid, but the movies really influenced like the like hope, the like dark turning into hope, right? And I just love the world building in it and the character work in it. And then I would also Sweden as well.
Okay.
Pretty influence. Early Walt Disney. He was just so about. So, like, to give you an example, he actually spent $400,000 on Snow White, and $100,000 was spent on just the story.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the approach I try to take, is because like it's the same with filmmaking, because I come from that background. I've done a lot of short films, written some feature scripts. And so like if I'm going to go and I'm going to get 10, 15 people to help me make this script into a movie, like it better be good. Right.
Yeah.
So people don't spend enough time in comics and in film, especially nowadays in film. I think in comics too, they don't spend enough time in the story and the writing. Famously, the new Doctor Strange was kind of written after all the sets were built and all the props were made. So I just think that's a tragedy. Writing is incredibly important, and I found that out through making films, just how important the writing is. The best stuff I made was like, sometimes it was delayed. So it's like, well, it's delayed, I may as well go and do a few more passes on the script. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Just try and make it better, or tweak things, cut things, add something, and just really work the material before you even start filming. So, that's big philosophy. Walt Disney and his early stuff. And then Joss Whedon takes a similar approach where the writing is really, really important.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Was it always your desire to publish independently?
I never. So, like when I was in high school, I did a comic book campaign that failed, and I went on a closeout stream for the Roy Beckwith comic book, the Kickstarter that was actually successful. I went and reviewed it with some people, my original Kickstarter campaign, and there were no images. There was no, like it was just like really poorly done. And I remember thinking, oh, well, I'm just too big for comics then. That's what it is. And that's when I started doing movies and stuff. And I kind of turned away from comics. But through doing that, I realized, oh, actually, no, I just didn't do it right. You know, there wasn't enough work put into the script and into the marketing and into the campaign itself. And that's why I'm happy to be back doing comics. As far as was I always wanting to be independent, that was my natural inclination when I was in high school.
Okay.
Just do a Kickstarter and just do a short film, do a few. I've done a bunch. So it's like, I've never thought I have to have a studio and a name behind me and a distributor in order to do something I want to do. I can just do it. And a lot of the time, I think now I definitely have this perspective a lot more now that they will ruin stuff a lot of the times with trying to make it more sellable or more to their politics or whatever. And I'm pretty apolitical, especially as far as my writing. I do think that it's the case that the big corporations are trying to pander or just not make anyone mad, and so you can't have certain things or whatever. And I'm just not interested.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts then on modern comics? Now you've said that, and there's a reason I'm asking this, but which we'll get to in a second.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that even when I was reading modern comics, you had to cherry pick really heavy to get something that was good. Like I said, I had a bunch of New 52 and a bunch of Marvel Now subscriptions, and I only kept one from each of them.
Yeah.
I think the quality's just gone down, and I think that the art a lot of the times is still good. In fact, I think art has gotten better, and a lot of people don't like that. They kind of like the old style of like two-tone, one color, you know, like the kind of Kirby-esque looking stuff where it's like really simple coloring. And it's not super rendered and stuff, which I like that style too. But I think that the art has gotten a lot more focus. But I think that has either come at the expense of or because of the lack of good storytelling. So we can't tell good stories, so it has to look really, really good so that people won't notice that it's not written really well. I do think Snyder's, as far as I know, I haven't read the new Absolute Batman, but as far as I know, like Snyder still does pretty good stuff. Not that he's as
I
good
have
as,
read it. I've read the first few issues, and it's not bad. It's Batman from a more working class perspective, and it was okay, but it weren't really for me. So I sort of passed up on it in the end. I know it has quite a fan base, but it wasn't for me.
Yeah, a lot of people like the Absolute Batman stuff. I didn't read it. I've just been so busy. I haven't read a lot. But I prefer the writing style from the 80s.
Yes.
Yeah, where things are really structured.
Mm-hmm.
For example, the Ratcatcher Detective Comics back in the 80s. Geez, who was doing that? Was it Jurgens or maybe it was Busiek again? I'm gonna have to look.
Remember.
Actually, I have it right next to me. Oh, it's Wagner and Grant.
Yeah, I've met John Wagner.
Oh yeah. I have not had the pleasure, but
very nice guy.
That stuff is written really well. It's really tight and it has really cool stuff. So like I'm in the Ratcatcher book, there's the Ratcatcher was taken to prison, and when he got out, I can't remember if he escaped or not, but he ended up taking the witness, the police officer who arrested him, the judge, and one of the corrections officers, and he like blinded the witness, and like just the way that it's like thought out, you know.
Yeah.
The premise is really thought out, and the characters are really thought out, and it's really cool to see the structure and the mystery kind of unfold. Same thing with the Mud Pack, which I did reviews on in rundowns on, which was a 4-part series about the 3 clay faces. And I that one was really good too. It was structured well. There's really cool, interesting like character stuff happening with the clay faces, and yeah, just I really prefer that style to the new. Like, so this is what I think happened is they decided, well, we need people to want to stick around, and an easy way to do that is to serialize. But when you serialize without talent, the issues stop having their own payoffs. So each issue is basically selling the next issue.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a setup and payoff within itself, which I think that Joss Whedon does really well in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, is making it so one episode feels like an episode, but it's also progressing the story for the season. By the end of it, but it feels like its own episode. And I think Star Trek did this, especially the like more 90s stuff. Obviously, the original Star Trek is incredibly episodic. But I think that that's been lost in new comics, that they decided to serialize, but don't have enough writing talent to be able to also make it feel episodic, which I put a lot of work in Roy Beckwith to try and make it that way. The first issue is the hardest one to do it with because I'm introducing so many things, but I think I did a okay job at making it feel like its own episode. Issue 2 is much better in that regard.
So the reason I wanted to ask your opinion on what you thought of modern comics is because, well, recently this video did the rounds.
Oh, I noticed it. I've seen it. Like, I haven't seen the video, but I've seen people talking about it a lot.
Oh, I'm going to play it now. So for those who haven't seen this can get what I'm talking about.
Do you want to know the pain of being a comic book fan? do you want to know the pain?
That they never ends?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, they need to. They need to, for one. They had the big 400th issue of The Amazing Spider-Man.
I have
Aunt May on her deathbed reveals that she knew he was Spider-Man.
Okay.
And she approved of it. But then Marvel wanted to bring Aunt May back. So they said the Aunt May that died was an actress put there by Norman Osborn.
Shut the fuck up.
And that the real Aunt May was taken by the Green Goblin, and she was in suspended animation.
Oh, God.
And now she doesn't know he was Spider-Man, but Aunt May is back.
See, this is why when I talk about like the recent crop of MCU movies where it's like, oh, they're bringing back Steve Rogers. Like he had a nice send-off in Avengers Endgame. They're bringing back all these characters. And if you complain about this, people are like, well, that's what comic books do all the time. It's like, that doesn't make it good.
Well, it's okay then. Years later, another author, J.M. Straczynski, who's done mostly stuff outside of comics, did like Babylon 5 and whatnot.
Oh, okay.
He was a writer for a while. He actually had Aunt May discover that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. We did a lot with that. He made her a good supporting character. But then Marvel decided they didn't like that, so they had Spider-Man sell his marriage to the devil. So everyone would forget that Peter Parker was Spider-Man.
Like the devil?
Yeah. Comic books suck, Jeff. That was literally when I stopped reading comics. Like all comics, I got to there, and I'm like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done.
That's fair.
Fuck you, Joe Quesada.
I agree with almost everything he said.
Yeah.
Everything he said.
So that resulted, I think, in a Substack Quesada wrote, reflecting on the whole thing, and he took some flack for it as well. Now, going back to what we said previously, I'm all about testing the characters because you've got to put characters through shit to make the stories interesting. But to retcon so many stories for whatever reason, to do that, and it pains me to say this because I'm a fan of Casals. I love his artwork, and I'm a big fan of things like Ash, Painkiller Jane, and whatnot.
Mhm.
And I feel bad for him because, such is the way life is, you're remembered more for the crap than the good. Unfortunately, that's my ultimate fear for him, is that he'll be remembered for that more than anything. So, what's your take on it? You said you've agreed with it. Can you go a bit further before we continue?
Yeah, I don't know that it's his fault necessarily, but I think that a big problem with mainstream comics is that they don't have an ending in mind,
No.
and that one writer's in does some cool stuff that's really meaningful. The next writer comes in and wants to make his mark on the comic, on the
Yeah.
title, and so retcons that to do the thing he wanted to do.
Well, did you see the build up to the wedding of Batwoman and Batwoman? Oh, for crying out! Batman and Catwoman. Can't talk
no.
today. Oh, what the hell's going on with me? Well, they basically teased it for 25 issues, and then when it gets to the wedding issue, it doesn't happen at the last minute, and it's just like, you spent 25 issues building up to this, only for it to go, fooled you, and it didn't happen, and that pissed a lot of people off royally.
Mhm. I mean, I'm okay with it not happening. The whole thing is that it needs to make sense and be a satisfying conclusion, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people do get cold feet. So I haven't seen this. I haven't read it, so I don't know exactly the details. But you can make almost everything work in the details.
Yeah.
Almost any premise. The problem is that often those details get fumbled. And aren't given enough detail, aren't given enough attention.
Yeah.
So if they wanted to do that and like build up to, oh, look, they're going to get married, and then it doesn't happen, it has to have meaning behind why it didn't happen. It has to make sense. We would have needed to see throughout that, like, it can't just be, all of a sudden you get kicked in the face with it. It has to be like, oh, she's been having like second thoughts, or they've been fighting, or I like Buffy a lot, so I'll just bring it up again. In Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Xander, Harris, and Anya are we're building up to their wedding.
Yeah.
But we're getting all of these little hints that things aren't perfect between them, and that he's maybe having some questions about his future and this sort of a thing. And in the episode where the wedding happens, he goes on this whole like crazy, his future self comes and is like, don't do it, it's awful. Turns out that was just a demon trying to mess with Anya because they had a vendetta or something like that. But it still made him question it enough, and he was already questioning it, and they ended up not getting married. And they didn't even end up together at the end of the series. But it was done in a way that maybe you were disappointed that they didn't get married, but it didn't feel like a slap in the face. It made sense. It was worked to, and it actually felt like, yeah, this is what would have happened. And I might be disappointed, but I'm not disappointed in the writing. I'm disappointed that they couldn't make it work.
Doggy in the background there.
Yeah, jerks.
Yeah. All right. So in that case, then we come to the main event of the show, I beg your pardon. And that is, of course, Roy Beckworth and the Cursed Continent. Target of $1,000. You raised $1,899 to bring it to life. Congratulations, first of all. I always love seeing a successful campaign of something that looks good. Now, given what we've talked about, where you've written stories, sci-fi, you decide to go with a supernatural edged Western. So I'm curious, what made the story? How did you come up with that story?
10 years ago, long story. 10 years ago, I was still living at my with my mom. My parents are divorced, so
Mhm.
I didn't have a job at the time, and I remember I was sleeping, and she got up. She was getting ready for work in the morning, and I had been doing screenplays and stuff. And I think I was just barely 18. And I woke up to her getting ready because, in the middle of this dream that I was having
Yeah.
about a cowboy going through a sort of convenience store and like shooting up the place and stealing some, Cracker Jacks.
Okay.
Um, and this was the basis of Roy Beckwith. And I had kind of pictured it as more modern bounty hunter
Okay.
kind of a thing, but with a kind of dressed as a cowboy and everything. And so I wrote a whole screenplay of that was called Roy Beckwith and the Book of the Dead.
Okay.
And it was about he had this job and he was supposed to retrieve the Book of the Dead for his employer.
Yeah.
And he didn't know what his employer was going to do with it, but it turns out he was trying to like kind of apocalypse, raise an army of the dead kind of a thing. And that I kind of liked it. It was a fun experiment, get to explore the character, but I realized it wasn't the story that I was supposed to be telling with him. I realized he needed to be in the Old West, and this is
Okay.
all still years ago. And so I wrote another screenplay that is actually the second half of this whole story. I didn't realize it at the time, but it's he's in the Old West. He has he has reasons why he needs money, and he gets entangled in this journey to the South Americas. He's just getting paid. He doesn't realize the gravity of it, and that it's all supernatural and has to do with like a history with Pizarro and the an Iqma tribe, which was absorbed by the Incas before Pizarro came over, and their kind of culture and stuff. But that's, and I don't want to get too much into that because there's still stuff that's still going to happen.
Yeah. That might.
Yeah, so I wrote that screenplay. I did many drafts of it, and I realized like this is like we're coming in like halfway through his journey here. And so through this, like through the last like 10 years has been just me trying stuff and developing my story structure, which is it's so crazy. Like it's really detailed.
Well, I'm intrigued because as you advertise in this Kickstarter, it's across 64 issues. So you have everyone planned out?
So yeah, I love talking about this. So basically what it is I'm layering what I call simple circles, which are basic, like any plot you could think of, you could make it with this.
Okay.
And so you have one simple circle that's going to tell the whole story. You can have this for multiple characters and they tie together in certain mathematical ways. It's weird. But and then you have underneath that, you have smaller ones that build to those plot points.
Yeah.
And so I have like 5 or 6 layers of simple circles that get more granular as you go down. What I did was I stair stepped because 1, I wanted to be able to get issue 1 done quicker, but 2, I wanted flexibility. So I didn't want to get tied into the details yet. So I stair stepped. So I have for all of the characters that have, it's complicated. Not all of them are in the top layer. It's weird, but basically like I have the top layer. And then as you go down, I only have the first one, the first simple circle in that layer. So I have it less and less figured out as you get to the end of the story, but nevertheless, I have the entire story figured out and in mind, just in less detail as we get closer to the end. And so as I approach an issue, I say, okay, so what circles do I need to get done in order to get down to this to write the script for this, and I do those ones.
Okay.
Which I actually think is really useful because I can get feedback, and I have a lot more time to explore the world and like just come up with ideas for how I want the details to play out. I have general ideas of how I want the things to be that aren't like plotted yet.
Yeah.
But I do have a pretty good idea of how things are going to play out through the 64 issues.
So, how did you come across the crew you worked with to make this comic book? And it's a bit of a two-pronged question, but there's that. And how do you make a comic book on a very low budget that you did?
I wouldn't call it super low budget, but
Well, okay, let me correct myself. Lower a
no,
budget
cool.
than what I've seen with some crowd funds.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Mine's not public. I haven't seen a lot of. I have no idea what other people are spending. But I have seen. I've talked to people, and they've given me what their rates are, what their artist rates are, and I'm like, oh, that's not as much as I'd suspect, based on what I'm paying. But that's because I wanted really good people. So basically I want people who are industry standard, like they're like my colorist has moved on because she's all Marvel. DC now has no time for anything else. So we had to get a new colorist. And but with Jarrett, so he does the line work. He's a great artist, great guy. He was on Upwork. He's no longer on Upwork, so I'm lucky I found him at the time. But I spent months just looking for artists in different areas, freelancer, Upwork. I didn't realize Twitter was actually a really good place to find an artist. But so I found him on Upwork, and we were pitching to Image. And it was actually, we're going to pitch this series I have that's 256 issues. And he was like, man, that's a lot. I don't think they'll pick it up. Maybe you should do something smaller and like we can like develop a relationship with him. And I was like, yeah, okay. I realize now like I wouldn't want to work with Image because they demand more control of the like even though you own the rights, they still get a lot of input.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm not like they say that Image is indie. It's not really, dude. So, not really. Kinda. But they have a lot of control still, and I don't want that. But we didn't get picked up, and maybe it would have been cool if we did, but I actually think it's better that we didn't. And it was actually just a smaller series. It was 3 issues. It was going to be like a one-off kind of a thing. I realized actually, this needs to be more than it is. It needs to be like actually attended to, because the story is like really I would call it important, which that's just the way I think about storytelling. And so I got with Jarrett on that one, and we did test pages, and I had to do the whole pitch. Here's what the first issue's like in less detail. Here's the full like mini series and stuff. But then now I'm getting off the question, but I ended up we kind of moved away from it for a little bit. I was planning on coming back to it, but I was doing some film stuff and I didn't really have a lot of time for it. And so because of the job I had, I ended up getting sick, and I was sick for 3 days in the hospital. I was sick for a lot longer, but I was in the hospital for 3 days.
Do you mind me asking what job it was?
Yeah, so I was working in the sewer department in my local city, which I got paid a lot, and it's actually not that bad. But like we send a hose down manholes, it's nothing insane. But I did get sick from it, and so I never was in a manhole or anything like that. It's just put a hose down.
Yeah, I get you. Carry on.
Yeah. But I did get sick, and I no longer have that job, but I was in the hospital for a long time, and I thought I was going to die. I thought it was over. And like you kind of get clarity when that happens. And I realized, because I had been working on the structure kind of on my own, thinking maybe pitching it to someone else, Dark Horse or Mad Cave or whatever it was. I was thinking about pitching it to other stuff, and I just said, I have a lot of savings. Like, I'm just going to do it myself, and kind of restart, because I felt like the last 10 years of my life was, like I wanted to do it again. I wanted a do-over, because I tried to do a comic and it didn't work. And I had then moved into film thinking I'm too good for comics, and it hadn't worked out to the scale I wanted in film. And I wanted to start again in comics and conquer it, rather than, let my pride just tell me I'm too good for it and move on to the next thing and keep moving on to the next thing. Because I'd done a lot of music and stuff like that. I never really released much, but just always like jumping from thing to thing. So I decided I kind of want to start over and like just spend the next 10 years doing comics rather than the next 10 years jumping from thing to thing. So then I did it. I got back in touch with Jarrett, and we started actually just doing it. And that's when I got my Twitter. And that's so that was less than a year ago I got my Twitter. And so yeah, that's where I'm at. I know that wasn't quite the question, but I found Jarrett on Upwork that to answer the question that you had asked. And then Fabi I found on X. Fabi Marquez, she's fantastic colorist. Happy to see her moving on to bigger things, but so even if I don't like what Marvel and DC are doing, but it's nice for her. And I found her on X just searching through different colorists, and I really liked her stuff. And then the new colorist, I haven't announced yet, so I'll just say how I did the same thing, basically. Just searched Twitter for colorists and looked for art that I really liked, and then go, well, who did the color on this, that's how I found our new colorist, also a she. So there's a hint, everyone, if, coming before the announcement. But yeah, so that's kind of how I found him. I think that, artists, creators, writers they have trouble finding artists a lot. And I actually think that that's just like a grind issue. Like, they're just not willing to ask a lot of people. Yeah. Because you're not always going to get said yes to. And it's like, well, they didn't say yes. No one's going to say yes. It's like, no, that's not how it works. Ask a lot of people. It's the same way that I got all of the people to do covers for me is, I approach them respectfully. And if they can't do it, then they can't do it. And, I move, and if they don't reply, they don't reply. And I ask some more people that I really like their art. And that's how I got Carrie Nord and Jason Sean Alexander, and Todd Beats to do covers for me. Is I just reach out. Like, you can just do stuff, people. There's not as much gatekeeping as people think. Like, you can just go out there and put yourself out there and, try and get stuff done.
Yeah. So who's blowing the bloody question there. So how long is this project, do you reckon, going to take of your life? Because obviously I said it's 64 issues.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, so that's a few years.
Yeah, so I mean, I could just lay out what the exact current plan is, and obviously things change, but the idea is last year we did one issue.
Yep, I backed it.
Yes, you did. I much appreciate it. And we should talk about your thoughts if we have some time at the end of this.
Yes, of course.
But we being me and my brother who's helping me finance, we want to do 2 issues this year. So we're coming up. Hopefully soon we'll be doing issue 2. No announcement on that yet, just because the website's taking longer than I wanted. We had to find a new colorist. There's just stuff. So I don't know exactly when, but hopefully we'll basically be rolling right into production, and there won't be a time gap between issue 2.
I should pause you there because I just realised what the question I was supposed to ask a moment ago was, because I remembered that not only did you write this book, but you also lettered it as well.
Oh, yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious how you came about doing that, because from what I know of lettering, it's not easy.
Oh, it could be tough. I mean, I saw Robert Kirkman's interview with Comic Tropes.
Okay.
And this was years ago, but I just remember hearing about him lettering his own stuff. Mm-hmm. And that gave him he got to save a little bit of money, especially when he was starting out, because he was running everything off of credit cards, hoping to make money. And then also it gave him an opportunity to kind of touch things up as he was lettering. And I was like, oh, that's cool.
How did you learn?
The approach I want to take.
How did you learn?
A few videos. I think because people, so like every time I get into this like thing about artist versus writer, people are like, of course, someone who can't draw is saying that writing is more important. Yeah. It's like, I do draw. Like I draw. So like I've done a lot of like pages for this comic book that I've decided is way bigger. It's just like with Roy Beckwith, it's like way bigger than I thought it was going to be. And so I realized I can't do it by myself and get it out timely and write it and do all of the art and everything. So that's like why I have relationships with artists. It's not because I can't draw, it's because I can't draw fast. Yeah, and so I already have experience with drawing and working digitally and how layers work in Photoshop. And I used to be a colorist for smaller, like basically like for fan stories and stuff like that. And I was coloring when I was in high school. And so like I have experience in it. So it wasn't that hard to learn. A couple videos gives you some tips that I didn't realize, but I think that there's one thing that I wish I would have done a little different on this book is sometimes the word bubbles are a little too tight around the letters.
Okay.
And that's few and far between, I think. It's not too distracting, but I would like to try and fix it. But then I decided like, I don't want it to just be Comic Sans or Anime Ace or, one of these generic comic book letterings, fonts. But I also don't want it to be like so unfamiliar that it's distracting.
Well, I like the lettering style you did with the shaman character.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that. Too bad there's nothing. I don't think any of these pages on the Kickstarter have any of that as an example. But yeah, so it's kind of for the people who can't see it. It's electric blue outside, like the lines, and it's like sketchy and jagged, and black for like what normally would be white, and then the lettering is that same electric blue, the actual letters. Yeah, so that's something that actually was hold over from the pitch to image. I really liked this style and I decided to keep it. So it's a little bit different now because it was a little bit blocky before.
Yeah.
Just like, basically like, I don't know how to describe it, but like two triangles on the outside of a rectangle. Like that's all that it was. Now what I'm doing is I'm doing like a pentagram.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like distorted and warped to fit the dialogue better. And then I go from the tip of each like point on the star quote. And that's where I draw the lines from. And it's the same. It's the same colors and palette and everything. It's just the shape's a little bit different. It fits her character a lot more. And it's more chaotic because before it's too structured and her character's not, she's a chaotic force. And so I wanted it to be a little more chaotic. And so that's kind of what I'm doing now. But yeah, so I made that font that you were seeing in there from scratch.
Yeah.
Which was a learning curve because I'd never made a font. And and there's this thing called kerning, which sucks, dude. It took me like a whole week. You know what kerning is?
No.
So kerning is like, the reason why it takes so long is because there's so many pairs of letters. So it's like, here's an N next to an A, and then an N next to an O, and then an N next to a Z, or like all of the combinations of letters that could come up next to each other. And you have to like manually space them out so they don't look funny when they get typed out.
Mm-hmm.
And that took forever, man. But I was just dead set. I said, you know what? I only have to do this once. Just get it done. I'll never have to make a font again for this comic book. And we're set. So I actually did multiple fonts. So I did one that was just kind of like on the fly my handwriting, and I decided it was too unfamiliar and too distracting. So I still use that font when someone's like screaming, like someone gets shot or someone goes tumbling off a horse or whatever. I use that font. But then I decided I'm going to do something that's a little more familiar, but still different in my style. And so that's that new, I call it Graphic Grit, is the name of the font. Maybe I'll make it publicly available one day. But so I made that. It's kind of like a halfway between Anime Ace and Comic Sans with the gritty kind of texture.
Okay.
But, yeah.
So the reason, I'll be honest, I'm very nervous about backing new crowdfunded stuff these days. Mm-hmm. Now, because I was a bit hesitant about backing your work before I decided, screw it, I want to check this out. And that's because I was initially a fan and a supporter of the whole Comicsgate thing. Because I thought, okay, they're bringing something new. I believe independent stuff is where the magic tends to happen nowadays. So I thought, let's have a look. But as time went on, and the drama and the late books and everything else surrounding the movement, I just sort of faded away from it. And one of the worst examples I come across, besides obviously all the stuff with Van Sciver, and I don't know if you saw this, it was this book, now Death Raider by Rob Hunter. Now, the reason I bring this up was this is what the campaign took. So just over $32,000, which I'll give him his dues. He's good.
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
Yeah, as you can see from the rewards here, the comic was due October 2023. That's almost 3 years ago. It never happened. And when the guy was trying to get me to back the book, because I did have a brief conversation with him on Twitter, which, by the way, he has since nuked his Twitter account. I pointed out to him, it's a year late already, and you've taken 20 odd grand. This was in UK money at this point. Why do you need more? And I forget what he said now, but the way he responded, I just thought, yeah, I don't buy this. And the last update he shared was this one, Saving the Death Raider comic. Now, I'll read parts of it out. So, Death Raider campaign was such a financial disaster. I pissed away my savings in 3 years of my life. I could have been doing anything else. Crowdfunding is nearly dead. My peers' campaign totals drop with every new release. I wonder why. I have left comics for good and have now a very low-paying job in manufacturing. I don't give a toss. Why should you care? The point of crowdfunding in theory is it covers my bills while I work and promote the project. This never happened. It was my savings and freelance work that carried Death Raider through the campaign. Okay, but where'd the money go? Where does this leave the book? Either I come to some sort of compromise with my debtors and the book ships in the fall of 2025. It didn't. Or it's bankruptcy and the printing and shipping funds are confiscated. Examples like this are why I'm very, very hesitant now. At the time of this recording, you and I talking, I'm still waiting on, I think it's 3 books from the Comicsgate movement that I backed. One was supposed to have been fulfilled in December. I still haven't got it. And the other 2 are about 4 years late each, respectively. One of them was a 32-page Western comic, which the creator has given every excuse for under the sun as to why it's not happened. And he and I had some big to-dos about it over Indiegogo. And yeah, I lost faith. In one case was the campaign Sovereign, which never materialized. And that would normally piss me off, but I only backed digital copy of that because the postage was extortionate. But that guy made off with over 40 grand.
Yeah.
So what do you
Never delivered anything.
Yeah, never delivered anything. So what do you, as a creator and obviously a crowdfunder as well, think to all this stuff? Because whilst I believe in crowdfunding to get new people into the market and see stuff that perhaps wouldn't be available in the mainstream, its reputation has taken some damage in my eyes. What do you think of the whole thing?
I wasn't around for Comicsgate.
Well, you missed a shit show.
Yeah. So from what I understand, I think that a lot of opportunists jumped in.
Yeah.
It's this guy that you just showed me.
Yes.
That's what I've labeled them. They're opportunists. They said, wow, there's money here. I could do a thing and not even follow through, and I just have money. And Kickstarter even has a thing that says if it never happens, it never happens, and your money's gone.
Yeah.
So you just get it. And then, so I think that tainted the Comicsgate name. Obviously, we've seen
I should point out
way behind.
A lot of those were from Indiegogo, not Kickstarter.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar, right? So I don't know what Indiegogo's policy is, but I think it's similar to, it must be. It's like, if you never get your stuff, like it's part of the risk of crowdfunding. You're trying to help them bring it to life. It might not work out.
Well, it's interesting also, just to jump in quickly, you mentioned Van Skyber, because I did back his Cyberfrog works. I've since then stopped because Cyberfrog 1, which was Blood Honey, was 3.5 years late. And then issue 2, which was Wrecked Planet, was 4 years late. And when that happened, I essentially said, I'm done. My Wrecked Planet is still in the box it was sent in. I've never read it. And from what I last remember, because it's been a while since I've looked at this, the 3rd issue, which I can't remember what it's called now, took around half of Wrecked Planet. But again, they may have changed. I've not looked in a long time, but carry on.
Yeah, it wasn't even the full book from my understanding. But, or at least that was one of his books or something. It wasn't, he delivered a product that wasn't the whole thing. It was supposed to be so many pages, and then it was half that or something like that. I can't remember. I'm just like, this is all tertiary knowledge. I haven't I wasn't around. But yeah, so the opportunists came in and they made a bad name for Comicsgate. And in turn, indie comics in general. And so, or at least like the actually indie comics, like I'm not talking Image and Dark Horse, like those don't count anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't know. So this is my thought, is that I've come in at a bad time, you could call it. And I actually think that it's a good time because the opportunists are no longer around because there's no more opportunity for grifters, for people who aren't planning on actually delivering. There's not an indie comics boom anymore like there was 5 years ago or whatever. And so I've come in at a great time because as long as I can do my thing, stick it out, provide actual value, and actually finish my thing, then when things turn, because things always happen in waves. When things turn, I'm here and I have a reputation of actually delivering. And delivering a good product, because
I should also point out you delivered this on time.
Yeah, I was trying to get it even earlier. So I said January or February, and I wanted it in by Christmas. But the comics the print job was botched. The pages were stuck together, and when you peel them apart, ink peels.
God.
And we printed 2,000 of these.
Oh.
Well, because I'm doing a 64 issue series, so I know eventually they're going. So may as well get a discount for bulk, right? And prices are only going to go up with inflation and everything. So I may as well just get 2,000. And so that was delayed, but I was still on time.
Yeah,
Even with the
yeah.
delay.
Yeah.
It's not just about being on time, it's about being a good product. This is what I think in like, if I get jumped on, I get jumped on. I really don't care anymore. And like, there's on one side, you have real stuff that could be really good, but never delivers. That's the Scriver, Scriver, however, I don't even know how to pronounce his name. And then there's the delivers, but is really not good. And I would say that's Ripaverse. And so what we need is something that does both, has a really good product and delivers on time, both things. And that's what I'm just trying my best to get done. So we want to do 1 that last year, 2 this year, 3 next year, 5 the year after, and then 10 for every year after that. A lot of it is just hitting velocity. So basically, like, if full transparency, no one knows how much anyone's getting paid or anything, but for the whole thing, it costs $15,000 to do an issue. And so if we can get that back on each campaign, then there's no longer a waiting period. It's just roll and do the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. Even if we never make money, I don't even care. It's all about getting it out. I'm a storyteller. I'm not a money maker. Hopefully I can make some money. That'd be nice, but it's not what I'm here for. The fact is, though, is that it costs money to produce. So that's what we're trying to do, and we're trying to do it without lowering quality. And so I see that that's what Ripa's doing now. Is he says, I want to do a lot more this year. We're going to release a lot more stuff. We're going to do everything faster. And I think that's hilarious because his stuff's not even good yet. And so you can't do faster. Maybe it is, but maybe it is now. But as far as I know, it's still not very good.
Well,
and so
I backed Yaira, and I liked it. And he did that. Yeah. And he did that anthology series where he got a load of different creators in. And I thought that was very promising. But yeah, it's an interesting take you have there.
Yeah, well, I think it's funny that you didn't mention anything that he did.
Because I didn't back
that other people did.
Yeah, I didn't back Isom because at the time I was still very burned on the experiences I had with Comicsgate.
Right.
When I saw Yaira, I went, okay, I like the look of this, which was why I ended up backing it.
Yeah, and I'll give some credit to the Soska sisters. I think they have more talent in writing than Eric July himself. But as far as I've seen, because I haven't read much of it, I looked at some really in-depth reviews of Isom 1. But as far as I can tell, it's not incredibly good quality yet, and he wants to scale it. Like, you have to be able to do really good, and then you can try and do really good faster. And he just wants to do more. And I think the reason is because maybe you had a different experience, but what I've been seeing is people were really hyped. Oh man, this is a guy who gets it. He talks crap on Marvel and DC, rightfully in a lot of respects. He must know how to do it right. And as I've always said, just because you know when wine tastes like crap doesn't mean you can make good wine. And so I think that that's what he was. And so people realize that as they start reading his stuff, and they're forgiving of Isom 1. Oh man, he's just setting stuff up probably, and maybe all these things that don't make any sense will make sense later. And they just slowly find out that it's just not good, and he's not resolving anything, and he's introducing more plot lines than he's resolving, and letting loose ends go and just doing random stuff because he doesn't know how to write. And he pretends he's working on it, trying to get better, but I haven't seen that. And so I think that, and he's bringing in other people who actually know what they're doing a lot of the times. But overall, I think people have become disillusioned with him. And that's why his campaigns aren't doing as well anymore. His books are selling less and less and less. And so what does he do? Oh, well, I just have to do more campaigns. It's like, well, how about you just have done it right and well and did a really good job, and then you would have less churn and you wouldn't have to up the amount of stuff that you're selling, because he's realized that he's not gaining more followers, he's not gaining more audience, he's only losing audience. So he has to squeeze each audience member for more and more. And that's my perception of it. And maybe I'm wrong, but that is my perception. And so I'm trying to avoid both of those. I'm trying to finish first off, and I'm trying to do it well and have really low, it's churn, which is people who decide they don't want these products anymore and they're out. So the way you do that is with really good writing and consistently good art. And then obviously you have to deliver on time or period in a lot of cases. So, I'm open to people changing my mind on that, but that is my current sense.
Okay. So obviously, Roy Beckwith issue 2 is on the way, but what else is next for you? Because I know that you are building a website.
Yeah, the website is for Roy Beckwith. So what I've been working on is a digital reader, which as far as I can tell is kind of like it's in ways that's never been done before. This is just my MailChimp. You should look at, you know what? Can I send you a link to something and you can check it out?
Yeah, certainly.
All right. So this is the digital reader that I've built from the ground up. That is, as far as I can tell, no one's done this. Where do I send it in here? There's the chat. There we go. Is it loading? Come on. I don't see a type box here. Where? Come on. No, this isn't me being able to chat. I don't know how to send you something. I'll just send it to you on Twitter.
Yeah, send it to me on Twitter.
So this I'm building. The reader itself is done. Now I'm working on the rest of the website itself. So obviously, like the link, please don't share it. It's just it's a working link. It's not the actual what the domain will be. But you can kind of click around. It's like a general panel to panel reader. So if you click preview issue 1 in the reader up top, just above, click that. So what I noticed about a lot of comic book digital readers is that it's basically like, here's what the comic book looks like on a page. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to take that image with the lettering the way it is, and we're just going to move from panel to panel.
I like the way it transcribes from one scene to the other.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. So what that creates, the problem that creates is a lot of the time the text is too small. When you're zoomed out, to a full wide panel, the text will be tiny in a lot of digital comic book readers. And so what I decided to do was have it so the text auto scales to be about the same size to the reader, so that it's always legible and you never have to squint. That was a big problem I had with the readers that I'd seen with Global Comics. I haven't done a lot of mainstream digital reading, so I don't know what Marvel or DC's look like. But as far as I've been informed, it has the same problem, where the text will be too small or and that kind of a thing. So, and also I don't like I find it stale. So I like the way that the text whips in and stuff like that. So I'm just working on finishing the website. People will be able to go visit that, and they'll be able to read the first 15 pages of Roy Beckwith for free. And for just $1, they'll be able to get the full issue digitally. And each time we release, the idea is, like, as we're approaching an issue, we'll give a quarter of an issue for free to just make the taste people can get bigger and bigger. Okay. The reason that we don't want to just be like, here's all of issue 1 for free and 7 pages of issue 2 as we're approaching issue 2 is because that people paid money for the digital version. Yeah. And so we don't want to, kick dust in their face and say, well, who cares? You paid full price, sucker, So, so we're basically going to release a fourth of an issue as we approach each issue for free. But it will be like continuous. So it'll be the first pages overall, not just the first of the issue that's coming up. Like I think it's silly, and a lot of people do this, is here's 7 pages of issue 1.
Yeah.
And then when they go to issue 2, here's 7 pages of issue 2. If you want to try that out, it's like, well, a lot of these people haven't read all of issue 1. If they're newcomers, so you're just giving them stuff with no context, maybe spoiling stuff, who knows? So I just thought it made more sense to just, keep a running release. So when we're on issue 64, people will be able to read 16 issues for free.
Yeah.
To decide because that's actually that's a bigger purchase, right? If you're a newcomer and you got to get 1 through 64, that's a lot. Like that's not going to be a cheap item. That's going to be hundreds of dollars. And so you'll really want to know if you will like it. And so 16 issues, I think, is enough time to figure out if you're going to like it or not. But yeah, so that's kind of the idea with that. And with the website, the website's going to be like super tailored to who the viewer is and what they've experienced so far. So it'll know if you backed a campaign before, what issues you've read, and what issues you physically have and which ones you just have digital, so that it's not hitting you with an ad that you've already bought. Like, I already have those. Why are you hitting me with this ad?
Yeah.
So just trying to make it really good. Yeah, I appreciate it. So yeah, that's what's up with the website.
Okay. So to end the stream, I go through my usual, which is the Pivo questionnaire, and it's a tribute to James Lipton, the late great James Lipton, and of course inside the Actors Studio. So Nick, what is your favorite word?
Perseverance.
What is your least favorite word?
That's a good one.
This trips a few people up.
Because.
What turns you on?
That's a good question. This one is a tough question. I would say the fight.
Okay.
So yeah, and that's what I consider storytelling.
What turns you off?
Low effort.
What is your favorite curse word?
That's a good question. Yeah, probably the most versatile, which is fuck.
Yeah,
it's the most versatile.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
What sound or noise do you like?
Yeah, I like the sound of my coffee brewer.
What sound or noise do you hate?
That's a good one. My dog's barking. Yeah.
What profession other than yours would you like to attempt?
Physics.
And what profession other than yours would you absolutely not like to attempt?
Probably ice skating. Like figure skating.
Yeah. And finally, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
You gave him hell.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, you can find Nick on Twitter. I'm not calling it X. At Strange Pages is his tag. You can keep an eye out on Kickstarter for the next issue of Roy Beckworth, and also his site once he finally sets it up. And as I've shown, his mailing list. Nick, it's been a fun conversation. I really appreciate having you on, and I'm so sorry I bungled that beginning. That was a complete and utter brain fart on my part.
No, you're all good. Thanks for having me on. I think that I've been on Crenshaw enough. I'm used to the intros getting kind of bungled. That's kind of his trademark. So you're stealing from his playbook. I do think it makes we're just being real. We're not manufactured, so messing something up, that happens.
All right. Well, again, thanks for coming on. I do appreciate it, and good luck going forward. So, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you on the next one. But take care for now. Bye-bye.